But we wanted to welcome everybody and thank all of you guys for making this ride today. Ross International was like family to Dad, and he bragged about how much he loved his job to anyone who would listen, and probably several people who would have preferred not to. My dad's own career as a motorcyclist was cut pretty short. He used to take me on motorcycle rides when I was 4, and then I would get to watch him skeet shoot. But when my grandparents found out about it, they put a kibosh on both the motorcycle rides and the shooting. So much later in life, he found other ways to implement his ever-present RV with his work. And one of the stories I just thought was funny was when Paul had career day, he asked Paul Youngberg to come in and talk. And Dad went in and he explained to the class how he started out in typewriters, and then he moved on into copiers, and he would call on prospects, and he would go on appointments, and he would prepare proposals, and in the end he would make the big sell of the copiers. And afterwards he got thank you notes. I don't know how old you were, 2nd grade maybe. He got thank you notes from the 2nd graders. But his favorite said, "I think it's really cool that you drive a camper and deliver copier or typewriters." So he was happy.
So I'm Liz. I'm Paul's youngest daughter. We usually go in birth order, so we're
is
really
very
wild
confusing
today.
for all of us.
So again, we just are so appreciative. I hope you guys can feel that. He would love this. I think all of us know him well enough to know he is smiling down, and he would love that we were doing this. I mean, our dad, life was an adventure, and that was our childhood, and it was, I think we lost a big part of that when he died, because we will try to carry that on, but it was an adventure. I can't remember a time he didn't have an RV, and a boat, and a dog, and all these women in his life. So he would load us all up. We had a 6-week trip that was a work trip, but also a little bit of family trip. His wife, our mom, the 3 of us, a basset hound, and the biggest stack of quarters you've ever seen, because we were decades away from cell phones, and he was working this trip the whole time, but it was amazing. And then more recently, when he bought his new RV, he was big kid, really big toy, and he was so excited about this RV, but we knew it was big. We could tell it was big, but we hadn't seen it yet, and he wanted to drive it over and show it to Chris and me. Jill lives in Chicago, so I was in the kitchen. You know, our house, the driveway just runs alongside the kitchen, and my back was to the windows. I'm like, oh my God, there's like a solar eclipse. Like something's happened. There's a huge storm. I turn around. I'm like, oh no, it's just Dad's new RV. He's so excited to show it to us. And so, you know, we're seeing the RV, and a couple of weeks later, a month later, Marilyn and Dad went on their first trip in this RV. And we all talked to him pretty often when he was on the road, and I was talking to him. Marilyn was on speakerphone. I was like, how's it going, Dad? Oh, it's great. RV okay? Yeah, RV's great. It's not too big. No. I hear Marilyn pipe up from the background. That's not exactly true, Paul. Tell her about the tree you hit yesterday. And so our dad laughs, and he's like, it was a small tree. It was very forgiving. It's all okay. And then the last trip, right before he went to Florida, Marilyn wasn't able to make it, but Dave and 2 of our boys and I met for lunch, and he was so excited. You know, he brought the binder, all of his planning. He was so excited about this trip and all of his organization. And, you know, he's like, I've been waking up at 4 a.m. I can't stop thinking about this trip. I'm so excited. And I said, well, how's Marilyn feel about the trip, Dad? And he's like, you know, he paused. He's like, you know what? I think once I get her in there, I think she's going to be okay. And we all kind of laughed. And we didn't know that was the last we were going to see him. And I'm not going to say rest in peace, because he didn't like to rest. He liked to have adventure. Yeah. So I'll say adventure and joy, and we miss you.
And as a family, we just can't begin to express how special this tribute to our dad means. Hearing that the Jillian Ride was coming through Cleveland after Dad had really only participated with you all for a few years was really just a reminder to us how special Dad made people feel and how important connections were. And any new person he met, he was always so interested in your story and hearing about you. And of course, he wanted to share his stories as well. But connections were everything to him. The Jillian Ride really brought him joy. Work brought him joy and pleasure. but more than that, work was just an extension of another family. And one of the moments that really brought this home to me, a couple years ago, I was in New York for a school conference, and my dad was determined that I needed to meet up with Raj for dinner. And as it was going on, it was getting a little bit confusing and a little tricky how Raj and his wife could get into the city. And my dad said, it means the world to me if you can meet somebody else who means the world to me. And we did make it happen. It was a lovely evening, and it really highlights what you meant to him and what Ross meant to him. And for that, we are so grateful that his last chapter in his working life was this one. And Ross was so much more than just a job. It really was his second family, based on so many mutual connections and respect for one another that really grew into strong bonds and connections. And I just think it might be a little fitting too that the plaque that you just presented to Marilyn is the same picture that one of my friends used to make bracelets for my sisters and I, and that to me is pretty significant. So we thank you all for being here and really celebrating such an amazing, special man. And that void that we're all feeling is one that just can't quite be replaced. And as one of Dad's friends said in a sympathy card, it's a void we don't want to have replaced because he meant a lot to all of us. So thank you all so much for being here, and thank you Ross, thank you Raj, thank you Patriots Pack, you all are amazing.